So I'm back with another wedding video for you today, and this topic was actually requested from one of my subscribers, which is always very, very exciting. And she had requested that I do a video on like the last few weeks before your wedding. What are some things that I often find that clients typically forget to do or they're not aware that they should be doing those last few weeks of wedding preparations? I thought that was actually a really good idea. I have a list, a checklist that I give to all of my day of coordination clients of things that they should be mindful of during those last 4 weeks of wedding planning. This is especially helpful for me for day of coordination clients because I don't have full control over the planning process. So I like to make sure that they are fully prepared going into the wedding day as well, because honestly it makes my job a little bit easier and it puts them at ease as well. So I'm actually just going to go through a few highlights of my checklist. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because one, it would probably be a half-hour video, and two, it's part of my business. It's information that people pay me to receive. And I know I make a lot of these videos providing valuable information to you all, but I also have to be very mindful of information that I am putting out there, because if I put everything out there, why would someone hire me to coordinate their wedding? So that's just one thing that I wanted to make sure that you were aware of as well. So I'm not going to go through the whole checklist, but I am going to go through some key points I think will be very, very helpful for a lot of you out there who are in those last few weeks of planning your wedding, or maybe you're still a few months away and you're trying to put together a list of things that you should be mindful of the month of your wedding. So I hope this is helpful for you, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so about 4 weeks away from your wedding, you should definitely go through all of your vendor contracts and make sure that you've given all of your vendors the information that they've requested of you. Day of coordination, I usually have a pre-wedding packet that I ask my clients to fill out. It allows me to gather all the information necessary to put together the timeline, confirm all the vendors, etc. You guys know the drill on that one. Also, videography and photography. Have you given them all of your shot lists? Did you get them all the addresses and all the information that they need as far as arrival at the wedding site, where you're getting ready, the timing, everything like that? Obviously, if you've hired a day of coordinator, he or she will take care of most of that for you. But if they've requested that you fill out forms and packets, you might want to get that to them as well. Usually around 4 weeks is the time they'll be asking for that. For DJ, you'll just want to make sure that you get all of your song requests over to him or her. Make sure that all of your song selections are finalized, the order of events is finalized, any information that they've requested from you as well. Now is a good time to go ahead and give them that. 4 weeks out is also a really good time to either start or continue working on your seating chart. I usually recommend that everyone have an RSVP date on their invitations of 4 weeks away from the wedding date. And here's the reason why. Usually your caterer or venue will request a final head count from you 10 business days or 2 weeks before your wedding date. So having that RSVP date 4 weeks beforehand, that gives you 2 weeks to contact all of those last minute stragglers that may have not gotten responses to you yet, and then you have that full 2 weeks to do that, and you're not completely rushed and running around and trying to figure out who's coming to your wedding and who's not. So usually by 4 weeks you have a really good idea of who will be coming and who won't. Usually I would say about 50% of your guest list should have RSVP'd by now, and then you'll have a lot of stragglers that you'll need to catch up on. But the best way to start with a seating chart is to start with the most important people first. So people that you know are definitely going to be there: parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, close siblings and relatives and people like that. Those tables are going to be the ones that are going to be finalized first. And then those last minute stragglers are typically people that you're not as close to, that are sitting a little bit farther away from you. So that's why it's easier to start with the most important people first and then work your way down. So you can definitely start that at the 4 week mark and then just keep working your way down. The 4 week mark is also a really good time to start budgeting for vendor gratuities and last minute payments that you're going to need to submit to all your vendors. I usually recommend that you do this now because I've mentioned this in other videos beforehand as well. You're going to have to pass out a lot of gratuities at your wedding, and I don't mean to say you're going to have to. Most likely you're going to want to pass out gratuities to your vendors, and it can add up very quickly. So now is a really good time to start budgeting based on performance so far, what you think you're going to be putting aside for each vendor, just making sure that you have those funds available. So let's move on to 3 weeks out, and this list is actually pretty short. It's basically a continuation of 4 weeks out. You want to make sure that all your vendors are finalized as far as final payments. They've all received their final payments and you've gotten paid in full receipts from them. That's also very important just for your own records as well. You want to go through all your vendor contracts and see which ones will be requiring a meal at your reception, and I have a whole other video on vendor meals. If you're interested in hearing what I have to say about that, I will link it in the information box below. And then also just keep working on that seating chart. Just keep calling all of your stragglers and last minute RSVPers. Here's a good tip from me as far as contacting those RSVP stragglers. Give mom and dad part of the list if you're overwhelmed and aren't able to contact every single person person on that list, especially if mom and dad have invited some people that you may not be as close to, but they're a little bit more close to them. It's definitely acceptable to do this if they've added people to your guest list. So make a list of those people and pass it off to mom and dad, and just make sure that they know that they have to get answers from those people by a certain deadline, because your final count will be due to your venue or caterer. To me, that's perfectly acceptable. I think most of my clients, and even Josh and I, we did that on our wedding day as well. We gave some of our guests over to our parents and said, you know what, you guys invited these people, why don't you go ahead and track them down? That, in my opinion, is perfectly acceptable, and it definitely makes the last few weeks of your wedding planning just that much easier. So that's definitely a tip that I recommend to you as well. About 2 weeks out, one tip I always recommend to my clients is to confirm your hair and makeup appointments for your wedding day. Usually the people that I have the most issues with are hair and makeup appointments somehow get misconstrued, or they wrote down the wrong time. It's always good to just triple check the hair and makeup appointments, especially if you're actually going to a salon. That's usually when I run into some room for error. Usually when I have hair and makeup people come to the house or a hotel, I don't have any issues. I would definitely, on your own, even if you have a wedding day coordinator, I always tell my clients to please confirm those appointments on their own as well, and then I will do it again just to triple check, just because that's one thing that we really don't want to have as a miscommunication on the wedding day. In addition to that, just pass off your final head count and seating chart to your venue or caterer. As far as how to present that information to your venue or caterer, your actual seating chart, I would just email them and ask them how they prefer to have everything laid out for them, because every venue is different. Do they want to see a floor plan with each table numbered and how many guests are at that table? Are you going to have place cards in addition to escort cards? And by that I mean, do you have everyone assigned to a certain seat? Just ask them how they want that information presented to them, because they're going to want to tell you how to communicate to their servers who is getting what meal at the reception, and everyone has different systems of doing it. So I would email them, ask what their preferences are, and cater to them, because it makes the whole process a lot easier. So that's definitely something that you should be doing about 2 weeks from your wedding. The week of your wedding, something that is very normal is to have a few guests here and there either drop out or decide to come last minute, and just be aware that this is very normal and this is also okay. Usually venues and caterers kind of expect that maybe 2 or 3 people will be added or taken away from your guest count, and usually as long as it's about 2 to 3 days before your wedding, they're perfectly able to accommodate you, and that shouldn't be an issue. I would just make sure to get in writing your updated guest count and your meal preferences as well, just so you have that in writing in case there are any mishaps on the wedding day. This is also a really good time to begin your vendor gratuity envelopes. What I always recommend is just set aside some envelopes, label all of them with the name of the vendor and who they are. For example, if you're using, I don't know, Sally Sue Photography, I would write Sally Sue Photography and the actual photographer that you used, just because the name of the company and the person that's photographing might be completely different. And then whoever is handing out the vendor gratuities at the end of the night will know exactly who they're going to. This is also a really good time to start packing up all of the wedding decor items that you've accumulated over the past, year or so from the wedding planning process. I would call your venue and see when you're able to drop off all of those items. Every venue is different and everyone has different rules and policies on this, so you definitely have to inquire. And then just let them know how many boxes you have, where you're able to drop things off, what hours, and then what the policies are on picking up the night of or picking up after or what have you. If you have a day of coordinator, this is something that I would usually take care of for my clients. So if you do have someone, just make sure that they are on top of that. And if not, this is something that you'll definitely want to take control of yourself. It's very important to know when you're able to pick stuff up and drop stuff off. What I recommend as far as packing up your wedding decor items is labeling every single box with what exactly is inside, especially if you have really shortened setup hours. I work with some venues where you can't get in to set up until about 2 hours before the event is to begin, and that is serious crunch time. So whoever is going to be setting up everything is going to need everything labeled and just easy to follow as much as possible. And usually what I recommend is that you put everything that's going in the place card table in one box and label it place card table, and then label everything that's in the box. If you need to include instructions as well, that's definitely always appreciated. For my day of coordination clients, I always get a setup list from them anyway. So it's really more for if you don't have a coordinator, whoever's going to be setting up like catering staff, stuff like that. So that's usually very helpful. That's something that you should definitely be mindful of the week of your wedding. And then finally, the most important thing is to relax. This is something that I think a lot of clients can easily neglect. This is your time to spend with friends and family who are probably coming in from all over the country to see you, and It's just really important to take that in and take in the entire week of your wedding and be mindful of the fact that you're getting married very soon and that everyone's so excited and happy for you. But at the same time, make sure that you have a good balance between spending time with friends and family and taking time for yourself. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with how many people are saying hello to you and wanting to talk to you. It's very easy to get overwhelmed, like I said, and it's good to just take some time for yourself, whether you just go into a locked bathroom and take a bubble bath or go for a long walk. Just make sure that if you need to, you do that for yourself, because it'll pay off on the wedding day when you're a lot more relaxed and you've gotten out all of your feelings and emotions and you're ready to go. So those are the things that I recommend for you, things to be mindful of the last few weeks of your wedding planning process. If you follow those guidelines, you will be good to go. Just stay organized, stay on top of things. The last 4 weeks of your wedding are definitely probably going to be the most stressful, just because you're putting together a lot of loose ends that really can't be done until that 4-week mark. So I definitely understand why it's stressful, and that's why I like to pass along this month of checklist to my clients. I think that they find it really useful. It just kind of puts their mind at ease knowing that they're doing everything that they need to be doing and they're not forgetting anything. So I hope that you guys found that useful. As always, please ask questions or leave comments below. I love hearing from you, and until next time, I will see you later. Bye.